A lot of people try to explain neutral, and they generally, in my opinion, have three different explanations of neutral, and I'm going to try to combine them and make a full explanation of neutral that tries to combine the three main opinions here. So, what are these three opinions? They are influence neutral, optimization / safety neutral, and information based neutral. Influence neutral assumes that I can influence my opponent to play a certain way and then beat that certain way. I'm influencing the opponent, and this is done by me thinking about what would I do in my opponent's shoes and from experience of what people do in certain situations. And next is optimization and safety neutral, which basically says play Pika and then mix up what you do after T-Jolt. And if you guess right, you kill them. And then there's information based neutral, which is, well, if my opponent did this thing 2 times in a row, he's likely to do it 3 times. And those are the 3 main views of neutral. Now, I don't think any of these viewpoints actually cover all of neutral because they kind of operate in an RPS dynamic. So influence neutral beats optimization and safety neutral because it says you have to choose an option. I can beat your safe option. You're going to have to do something else. And then influence beats optimization. Information beats influence because information is going to say, look, you're conditioning me the same time 3 times in a row, and this general idea, you're kind of like always jumping. It doesn't matter if you land with an attack or a grab, you're always jumping in the same spot, I'm going to hit you there. So that's information based, and then safety beats information because it doesn't matter how much information you know about Joker's down gun, it's still a good move. So all of these have this interplay, this RPS like interplay, and I think this is where we need to focus more if you want to get from mid-level to high level, because mid-level or getting to low level to mid-level in Smash or almost anything requires focus on specific things such as combo game, and that focus gets more abstract, more complicated. And I want to kind of explain at least my viewpoint on these things that aren't specifically in the game, but still affect the game. And I'm gonna call this, I guess I could call it a metagame, but that's kind of already used, so I'll just call it the separate game. And I feel like the separate game is really the real game. So I guess it's kind of like this game above in the perfect world, and that game is only represented by Smash. And a part of the game is the interplay between the 3 ideas of neutral. And another part I want to say is basically how both players develop the knowledge that is used to make decisions in the game. So let's assume that you are fighting a new player, and then let's assume you're fighting a top player. If you're fighting a new player, what's your strategy? Well, just beat them, really, because they're bad. That's really what it is. So like they're gonna make mistakes and you're gonna punish those mistakes. So what you're doing is saying my opponent's gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna use the optimization safety strategy. I'm gonna play safe and punish them when they make mistakes. Already, you are making assumption about the opponent, and you are building a game plan around that assumption. Now, what happens when you try to play a top player? Well, you're going to go in with your game plan, and then Leo's just going to destroy you because he knows more, probably, and he's also a better player than you, and he has better fundies. And fundies basically is this game where, well, Leo also knows that he's a better player than you, and he's more constant, and he has experience of knowing how to beat specific play styles, and he's gonna create this box where it feels like you can't hit him, and he's gonna make this set of rules where because you think he's a good player, You don't think of punishing many of the things he does, and it makes it very hard to hit him because you're not thinking of punishing him as much. Now, if you think of these two examples, playing a bad player and playing the best player, you realize that a lot of what's going on in this game isn't really what's going on the screen, but it's more or less the interplay between the two players and the rules that interplay creates. So against a low-level player, your rules are going to be, well, I'm just better at this game than you, so I'm going to win because I know how to counter everything you do, and I know how much more about the game than you do, so I can just beat you in so many different ways, abusing so much that you don't even understand. And you could say the same attitude from MKLO to your perspective. MKLO is just better than you. He knows so much about the game. But then there's a few issues because, well, low-level players sometimes beat better players. Why is that? If you assume that it's just this optimization thing about the game, well, what's with the low-level player problem? Well, of course, sometimes that confidence can mislead you. You might be overconfident, so you might be avoiding thinking about a specific setup they have, and that lack of change in your game plan might cause you to lose. So at sometimes you have to adjust your game plan to your opponent. And this goes both ways. Sometimes your opponent's going to have to adjust your game plan to you. This is commonly known in the community as respect. If you respect an option, it means you adjust your game plan for that option. If you don't respect the option, you don't change your game plan. And this changing of game plans is a major thing that needs to be expressed more. Another part of this is momentum. Momentum is when a lot of the rules are in your favor. Your opponent doesn't think they can do anything, even though that's wrong. Your opponent can do a lot of things. It's just that they are flustered, tilted, and they feel like the set of rules you have set up are unavoidable. There's nothing you can do about this option. You're spamming, yada, yada, yada. But if you were to look away or kind of take a step back, you'd realize there's so many other options. You're just super focusing on how you're getting hit and the opponent's set of rules that you don't realize that you can change the set of rules to be more to your benefit. Now, with all this considered, how do I think neutral is played? In my opinion, neutral is played by each player adjusting the set of rules to their liking, and then once the set of rules is adjusted to their liking, they play within that set of rules and win. So there's two things that can be done. You can adjust the set of rules, and you can play within the set of rules. How do you adjust the set of rules? To adjust a set of rules, you have to do something that's perceived as bad within the current set of rules and present an anomaly that the opponent hasn't considered. So, for example, let's say I do this a lot as Banjo, which is like Wonderwing stuff. So let's say I'm playing a better player than me. Something that I do is I actually would do Wonderwing more when I'm fighting someone better than me, because my game plan here is to mess with the opponent's set of rules so that I don't get trapped into their plan, because I know they're a better player than me. I know that they will probably win unless I do something risky. So I usually will do more risky Wonderwings, hoping that they shield so I can get more down throw up tilts at kill percent. That's an example of me basically theory crafting a way to be a better player, because I'm assuming that I'm hoping at least that I can change the set of rules so that they're better for me, even if it's taking a risk in the more rational optimization based approach that most people have in the game. So that's one decision you can make. And another decision I can make is to still play safe. And that might still be a good decision. Maybe there is a good way to play in the safe set of rules and still win. But maybe there isn't. And that's why the game is so hard, because you don't know when you should take a risk. You don't know if the opponent is going to respect your options or not. And you don't know if any of this stuff is going to work. And that's where experience comes in. When you get more experience at the game, when you move from a mid-level player to a high-level player, you get to basically realize how to play neutral. This is fundies, more or less. You realize when players respect what you're doing, when they don't respect what you're doing, when you should change how the game flow is going, so change the set of rules, and when you shouldn't, and when you should make these specific metagame decisions outside of the game that people don't really realize. So neutral is a lot more complicated than people usually see. I feel that there are three main interpretations of it, and that each of them highlights something important, but they don't all highlight the whole thing. All of conditioning-based neutral, optimization-based neutral, and information-based neutral play in this RPS dynamic. And by realizing that's an RPS dynamic, you can figure out what your opponent's approach to neutral is, change the set of rules based on that approach, taking appropriate risks, and create a set of rules that is more akin to your playstyle. This is a little bit complicated, but I hope we kind of figured it out a little bit. Cool.